schnitzel. Okay, okay. Now, like always, I just want you to sit down and make yourself relaxed and comfortable. So, go ahead and sit right in front of me here. I'm going to turn my chair a little bit, okay? We're gonna sit here in front of each other, alright? And place your hands on your knees. Good. And with me now, let's take some 3 calming breaths. And remember, I want you to think about inhaling positivity, love, light, gratitude. And I want you to think about exhaling fear, anger, negativity, all the things that bring us down. Okay? So inhale is good, and exhale the bad. Begin. Exhale. Good. Wonderful job. Let's do that again. Inhale the good, the light, the happiness. And exhale the sadness and the meanness. Get rid of all of that. And last one. Let's go. One more nice, calming, relaxing deep breath in. And feel that calmness flow down your body. Very, very good. Okay. And as you stay here, with your hands flat on your knees, I want you to focus on relaxing the forehead. Okay. Let's relax the forehead right there. Relax. Good. And relax your cheekbones. That's right. Relax your jaw and your ears. And let that relaxation flow down through the neck. Relax your neck. And relax your shoulders. Good. Allow that relaxation to keep flowing down the body. Down through your chest and your abdomen, your mid-back, your lower back, all the way down, deep relaxation down through the hips and through the thighs. Good. And letting that relaxation go down past the calves and to your ankles and to your feet, to your heels, all the way out, the tips of your toes and your happy little fingers. Okay. Very, very nice. Now let's just enjoy being here for a moment together. Enjoy the calmness. And that while you're here, you know you're safe. Nothing's gonna hurt you. This is a place where you can fully be you, fully self-expressed, with no judgment. You get to be your beautiful, wonderful, loving self. Very good. Now, it's been an interesting moment in our history, isn't it? And you're feeling a lot of anxiety around that, aren't you? Yeah. Well, I think it's very common, and I think that this has certainly been one of the most contentious moments that I've witnessed in a very long time. And do you mind if I share with you a little story? This just recently happened to me. It's while I was gone for a little bit there. So, my wife and I went to China. And it was a bit of a unexpected journey in many ways, in that we had not really planned on going to China. Only a month before, there was no real thought of going to China. And we thought maybe we might do, maybe possibly a trip to Europe at some point. China was not on our radar. And as we were offered an opportunity, it was through my brother's wife. My brother married this beautiful, wonderful Chinese lady. She's an amazing person. And say we're going to go back to China for the first time for them in like 10 years. It's been quite a while. And almost off of the cuff, my brother asked me, Helmut, would you like to join my wife and I in China? And thought about it, and I thought, well, maybe. It's a bit sudden, it's a bit last minute, but maybe. So I spoke with my wife, and we thought, well, we can actually make this work. If we get everything lined up, everything has to go perfectly. We have to go get visas, we have to, get plane tickets. I have to make sure that her work would survive, her company, to make sure that I had my bases covered, all my clients and so forth. And we were able to go. It was interesting. It was kind of like a lot of stars had to align, but in the end we got to go. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I didn't quite know what to expect when I'm going to China. If I'm being very honest, I had never really studied China that much. Of course, I'd heard of the big cities, Beijing and Shanghai and Hong Kong, places like this. But only very recently had I ever heard the name of a city called Guangzhou. And that's where my sister-in-law, the region she comes from, she came from a bit north of that, but when she was 16, she moved from a small village in the countryside down to the town of Guangzhou. I call it a town. It's like 18 or 20 million people. It's a very large city. And so we went from Guangzhou and spent some time there, meeting her friends and meeting her old acquaintances and aunts and uncles and brothers, mom and dad. And again, I didn't know what to expect. But what I saw was an amazing warmth and kindness and generosity. And and I think that's the key that I want people to focus on in this very tumultuous moment, is that in my experience, my grandfather told me this, and it's true. The older I get, the more this has been proven, is that people, no matter where they're from, no matter what they confess, invariably and always act like people. And what I find is that everywhere I go, people are generally very warm, very kind, and loving. I've spent time all over the United States, Germany, whether you're in the big cities like München, Berlin, or Frankfurt, or Cologne, someplace, or if you're in the smaller cities, or the towns, Grevenbroich, and the smaller places, in the United States, living in Los Angeles, California, and I love it here very much. Having had spent time in Ohio, and some time in Washington and Seattle, and having relatives all over this amazing country of the United States. Everywhere I've gone, people are kind, they're generous. They just want to take care of the families, and they don't want to see people hurt. Nobody wants to see people harmed. That's my experience now. I'm sure everybody has individual moments. Perhaps there's a moment you experience some racism, some sexism, a whole number of things that I'm not saying that there's not an ugliness in the world. There are people that are very small-minded, but the vast majority I found to be wonderful. Even when I went to China, I found the hospitality of the people to be so kind and warm. And I say that about China because obviously our governments don't get along. But when you meet the people, they're kind and they smile and they want to laugh and eat delicious food and take care of the children and the parents and the neighbors. Everybody's trying to get along. And I think that so much of the world revolves around making us afraid of each other. And you don't have to be. We don't have to be afraid of each other. It was a fun experience. I remember bringing my wife to the Midwest for the first time. She'd never really experienced, the Midwest. And she didn't know what to expect. There were certainly parts of it that she was genuinely afraid of. Thoughts of, what is a Midwestern ideology, and that might be very different than a West Coast, Los Angeles, California way of viewing the world. And they can be very different. And yet her experience of meeting those people, she found this very surprising. Because people were genuinely kind, genuinely, they may not have always agreed on everything, but there was no need why they couldn't break bread together, have a civil conversation, maybe even disagreeing, but not hating one another, even though they came from very, very different places in life. Yes. So, I want you to be open to their possibility. And what you and I have talked about this before. With anxiety, fear of the future, depression, it was more fear of the past or disappointment with the past. And all this, the world we live in is so anxiety-inducing. If we turn on the cable news, or even if we scroll through the Twitters, the things, or the Facebooks, or the things we see oftentimes are just there to get you angry. They're there to make you upset. Because, tragically as it turns out, and all humans are guilty of this, I'm guilty of it, you're guilty of it, we tend to interact more with the things that upset us. We want to correct people's ignorance. It's the way we all see it. We're all guilty of it, all of us. And so, the algorithms, it's been proven, will intentionally put things in front of our noses, in front of your nose, that is going to make you mad, because you're going to engage with it. And as we've said before, the vast majority of our brain is designed to handle and process negative emotion, fear, right? Fight or flight, I'm in danger. Because, of course, in the past, if you were having a positive experience, good for you. You found a raspberry bush, or you found some mushrooms, good for you. But the greater impact was knowing where the lion slept. You had to know which mushroom was the poisonous one, or the berry was the poisonous one. Because if you messed that up, it was, you might die. So our brains, our modern brains, here in the 21st century, are still very much wired toward fear, negativity, to othering people. Who is my tribe? Who are the people that have got my back? And we're very, very particular about that. We love making teams. We love being, there's the good guys. One says the bad guys, yes. But we're the good guys, and they're all the bad guys. And we just do it so easily, so naturally, to the point where we really have to make an effort. We've really got to do our best to say, okay, is the person over there truly my enemy? Or what do we have in common? What values? Instead of focusing on the things we don't share, let's focus on the things we do share. Let's focus on the goodness. Because once you do that, you see, then you can start having a conversation with people and actually change their mind. Because when, in my experience, I think that no human being has ever changed their mind by being scolded, by being told that they're not smart, by being told that they're the problem. I think basically nobody changes their mind in that scenario. Well, in my experience with relationships and communication, it's when we acknowledge somebody's fear, and if somebody says, I'm afraid of this person, or I'm afraid of that person, you say, okay, I can see why you might be afraid of that person, And you have to just acknowledge their fear. That to you it may be completely irrational, but to them it's very real. And to acknowledge that fear, say, I get it, I understand. That can be very, very terrifying and very scary. And then just leave it there. Don't try to correct or change. Just listen. And once people feel heard, it changes the dynamic of the conversation. And then somebody can say, all of a sudden there's a softening. And it's no longer, it's two fists coming at each other like this. It's more like a dance. So the hands coming in just start to go like this and work together, right? One hand gives, one comes, and then the other one can give, and we can move and we can flow, right? We can flow together. But if we're fist in fist, when nobody's having their mind changed, nobody's really listening, and it starts with you. It starts with me. Okay? You have to be the force of the change in the world around you. You have to be the one who lets go of being right the first, who accepts that everybody's afraid all the time. Let me repeat that. Everybody is, well, I shouldn't say everybody. I'm speaking in hyperbole. A great, vast majority of people are afraid all the time. And as we've talked about, anger is always a mask for vulnerability. So everybody is afraid all the time. And anger is a mask for for vulnerability, and we have algorithms poking us all the time, trying to make us angry, upset, to interact. And the result is high anxiety, loss of connection, loss of friendship, loss of love. And the payoff is that, well, I guess you get to be right. You know, your team gets to be right. And I've just found in my experience, you know, the more I try to be right, the sadder and sadder I am. Because I'm losing connection. Every time I'm trying to be right, or forcing an opinion, it just never goes the way we want it to. We're never able to persuade our friends or our family. It's only when we give up being right, even when you know you are, which is the really, really hard one. Letting go of being right, even when you know you are. Because it starts a dialogue. It starts a conversation. You stop being the oak and the rock, and you start being the water and the willow tree. You start to bend, and you listen, and you start to hear more. Because everything is going to be okay. You've got this. Breathe. Everything's going to be okay. There's a vast majority of the people throughout the world, whether it be in Europe, in the United States, and they could be in the southern United States, the Midwest, New York, California, wherever you go, Colorado, Wyoming, Texas. People are kind. Everywhere I've been. Oh, one more story. When my brother and his wife were moving recently, they had different cars. My brother had the moving truck, and she was driving their car, and she got stuck. Is the bottom line says the GPS took her on this kind of like dirt road, country road, and it had rained, and the rain had made mud, and the mud had gone over the country road, and her car got stuck. And this is at like 7 o'clock in the morning on like Monday or Tuesday, something random. And she said she was genuinely a bit scared. This is like farmland and country, and she's Chinese, and wasn't sure how to feel about that necessarily. And along comes a pickup truck. And a young man, maybe he's an older man, I forget, gets out and starts to help her. And he even crawled, and it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, very early, and he calls, and I think his son showed up, and she remembered she couldn't believe the kindness. This man gets out of his truck, crawls on, he was wearing like a nice new t-shirt, gets onto the ground in the mud, starts helping her get a car out of the mud. They tow her car, they get her to safety, and she's trying to pay them and be like, thank you so much. And they would insist, like, no, absolutely not. You needed help, and I was there to help. That's all that matters. And I think that is the case for so many people around the world, that all they want is to help. Be kind, give kindness, and make the world a little bit better place. So, I want you to take a nice breath. Repeat after me. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. You've got this. All right? to seeing you again very soon. Okay? Alright. Take care, Liebchen. Auf Wiedersehen.